Game one of the Eastern Conference Finals today, and I'm going to give you my free selection on the game. Yes, the game one side is going to be my free pick. I'm also going to talk about how I think that you should play the series and why you should play the series, and my betting philosophy on series when you get to this stage of the playoffs, and maybe even talk about the total as well. Now, in terms of which handicapper has the big play on the side, well, no ifs, ands, or buts. That would be Jack Brayman, because he has just had a wonderful run here over the past 6 weeks, and especially in the postseason. And today, yet another 100 dime max wager release, number 23 out of 32. It's on the Celtics Cavaliers side. It matches his 100 dime baseball winner, number 10 out of 12, that you got on Friday with the Orioles for over half price off, which matches Thursday's baseball winner, which was number 9 out of 11 on the Phillies, which matches Wednesday's, which was on the Celtics, which matches Tuesday's, which was on the Brewers, a huge underdog over Corey Kluber and the Indians at $1.70. You can find all the other basketball and baseball winners on his site on the homepage. The bottom line is you've gotten all of these recent 100 dime max wager winners for over half price off from a guy who has made $10 bettors a little over $21,000 over the past 67 days. Yeah, that's not a bad 2-month run. You get it for over half price off simply by using coupon code JACK. And don't forget, for early baseball action, you might want to check out Eric Schrader, who yesterday cashed in with the top-rated 100 dime play, which you got for over half price off, as he delivered with the Cubs on the run line. And today, top-rated 100 dime winner, number 28 out of 40. It's the Giants-Pittsburgh game, which I think goes at 1:05 or 1:10 Eastern time at PNC Park. Short term, he's going for winning day number 22 out of 31. Long term, he's made a $10 bettors a little over $22,900 over the past 124 days. So again, not a bad 4-month run for him. And you get it for over half price off simply by using coupon code ERIC. All the other discount codes and promos, etc., are over on the home page. So listen, the one thing that I can tell you in gambling for as long as I have, forget about handicapping, gambling, is that the wisest thing is not to try to be the smartest kid in the class. And what I mean is this. Now, back to the handicapping perspective is, I can tell you who I think is going to win today's game. I could release it as a play here on the site, but it would be a disservice to the guys that are paying for my picks. It would be stupidity on my part to bet this game today, because although I think I know who's going to win, although I have an opinion on the game, it's not the best bet on the board. The best bet for me is another play in baseball, just like the Cubs yesterday. That's where I'm going to make my money. That's where I intend to make my money. And if I miss the play in baseball, I can walk away and I can live with myself, because that's where I believe is the money to be made today. Basketball, this game is going to be damn close. It could be one way or another. I think I know which way it's going to go, but again, it doesn't ever pay to be the smartest guy in the class. So let's break down the game and let's talk about it. You know, a lot of people say, well, look at what Cleveland has done to Boston in previous years in the postseason. Oh, LeBron has won 6 straight games in the postseason at Boston. Cleveland has absolutely dominated the Celtics in the regular season and the postseason. I don't want to hear any about that, because this is not the Boston teams of years past, and this is certainly not the Cleveland teams of years past either. We have seen a Celtics team that has transformed before our eyes in just the past month. Not 3 months, just the past month. And I'll take it a step further. We have seen a Celtics team just in the past couple of weeks really come together. But it's the past month. Let's remember that these NBA playoffs aren't even a month old, and the masterful job that Brad Stevens has done. But we have seen this team in the past 6 to 8 weeks with Terry Rozier taking control of this team at the point guard position. But we have seen Jason Tatum, who has had a fine rookie season, just blossom in the postseason. 7 straight games coming into this Eastern Conference Finals game 1 with over 20 points a game. We've seen Jaylen Brown, before the hamstring injury, just come into his own here in the postseason. And then once he recovered, first on a minutes restriction when he missed the first couple games in the Philadelphia series, reintroduce himself as a dominant force defensively and a formidable force offensively. We've seen Al Horford score a career-high average playoff points-wise this postseason. A veteran guy who's suddenly putting up 17.1 points a game. That's a career playoff high for him in terms of points per game. We've seen Marcus Morris turn into quite a defensive stopper. And we've seen Brad Stevens change his lineup, take the players that he has left, and create systems that are working. Listen, Brad Stevens is going to outcoach Ty Lue without even trying in this series, because Ty Lue is an average coach's best. And we know that Ty Lue isn't really the coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers, right? Me and you, we know this, right? Now, let's talk about this particular series and the way it matches up, the matchup between the Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics. Forget about what the Cleveland Cavaliers did with the Toronto Raptors. Let's go back to what the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Indiana Pacers, how they played. The Pacers' philosophy was, let LeBron get his, and we're going to worry about everybody else. Bet your bottom dollar the Boston Celtics are going to do the same thing here. Toronto Raptors didn't have the talent to play that type of defense against Cleveland. Didn't have the talent. Offensively, right, Toronto played a different game than the Pacers did. Toronto played a different game than Boston will as well. But let's go back to the defensive side. The other advantage that I believe that Boston has here, unlike even Indiana did, is that they have the athletic wings with Tatum and with Brown, something the Pacers didn't have, to make life even more miserable for the Cleveland Cavaliers than the Pacers did. Now, I'm not saying Marcus Morris is going to be able to stop LeBron James, although they're going to give him some help with Aaron Baines. 6'9" Aaron Baines is going to give James a little bit of trouble. So whatever they can do to try to give James trouble is better. But I think Brown and Tatum are going to make life miserable even more so for the reserves, that everybody else that the Cavaliers are going to have to rely on for offense. At the same time, they are going to be a challenge for Cleveland's defenders to stop. Listen, the Pacers had Thad Young. The Pacers had, some complementary players. They didn't have those dynamic players and wings like the Celtics do. Al Horford has done a great job in his career at containing Kevin Love. Think of what the Pacers did with Sabonis and Miles Turner giving Love fits. Love couldn't get the ball near the rim. That caused the Cleveland offense to simply bog down and to put even more pressure on LeBron James. Now, Boston came into this postseason number one in the regular season in terms of defensive efficiency, in terms of points allowed per 100 possessions. Number one in terms of the regular season. Have they been as efficient during the postseason? No. In fact, they're number 8 among all postseason teams. But then again, they played two very fine offensive teams in the Milwaukee Bucks and the Philadelphia 76ers, so I can see why those numbers have increased. The Cleveland Cavaliers are an iffy team offensively. We've seen that throughout the postseason. Against the Pacers, they really struggled at times offensively. Against the Raptors, who were a soft defensive team, they pretty much had their way. It's not going to be the same here against the Celtics. You've got Terry Rozier, who's had a career year here and a half a season, averaging 18 points, 5.5 assists, hitting at a 43% clip, finally discovering a three-point shot that he didn't even show much during the regular season. I want to see George Hill, with those nagging back issues, who returned to play some good ball for him at his age of 31 in the Toronto series. I want to see George Hill be able to contain Terry Rozier. Keep in mind, the Toronto Raptors were not able to run and force the Cleveland Cavaliers to run. The Celtics are going to run. They want the Cavaliers to run with them. Pacers wanted them to run too. Celtics are going to be able to be even more athletic and challenge the Cavaliers to run. So the Celtics also have a balanced scoring attack. That's something the Raptors really didn't have. That's something the Pacers really didn't have. So remember Cleveland's defensive strategy. Much like Indiana's was with let LeBron get his. Well, Cleveland's against Indiana was let Victor Oladipo get his and we'll worry about everybody else. Well, who are you going to stop? Al Horford averaging 17 points a game. Jason Tatum, 7 straight games with 20 plus or more points. Jaylen Brown, healthy, averaging about 18 points a game. And Terry Rozier, again, 18 points a game. you've got 4 legitimate scoring options for the Celtics. Now, I will grant you that when the Celtics go cold offensively, which they are wont to do, they really can get cold. But they can always rely on their defense to force turnovers. So, today, game number 1. They've got the home court advantage. They're a 1.5-point underdog. Strikes you as funny. Yeah, struck me as funny in game 1 and game number 2 when I lost money betting the 76ers at Boston, huh? This is a team that's 7-0 straight up and against the spread in the postseason. Does it strike you funny that this is a Cleveland Cavaliers team that's 1-4 straight up in the postseason on the road? And yet, Boston is the 1.5-point underdog. Listen, I'm willing to take a flyer if I was betting on the game on Boston today. But when I go back and I say to you, it's not worth being the smartest guy in the class, to me, the way to play this series for game number 1 is to stay away, to see what game number 1 holds. And what that will foretell is how this series, I think, will play out. I don't know. We saw Cleveland lay an egg in game number 1 against Indiana and then come out and win game number 2 at Toronto. I don't know how the Cavaliers are going to come out. Can you tell me? I don't know. In terms of the series play, listen, the Celtics are let me just double check the lead, plus 220 in the series. The wonderful thing about series plays is it gives you multiple opportunities to bail out. And you can bail out by betting the series again, or you can bail out by betting a money line play later in the straight up situation in the game, a subsequent game, or you can bet a straight money, a point spread play. You have numerous ways and opportunities to bail out. I would take a small investment and take the Celtics plus the 220 because you got the home court advantage. The Celtics aren't going anywhere, and I think the Celtics have a decent shot at pulling the upset. Because if we go back a couple of weeks and you saw how poorly Cleveland played against Indiana, wouldn't you give them a shot here, the Celtics, in this series? So I like the Celtics a little in game 1. I like the Celtics as a long shot proposition in the series play. I also like the over tier today at 204.5. I don't think these teams are going to come out scared. I don't think they're going to come out conservative. I think both floor teams are going to want to run and play at an up-tempo pace because, again, I think the Celtics are smart enough to know that the key to their success against Cleveland is to press that tempo. So I think that's the 3 ways I would go in this play series, game number 1. Of the 3, I like the Celtics a little more. I like the over. And again, I think it's worth investing a little if you're going to play the series to put a small wager down on the over. So that's how I like this particular game and matchup. If I had to rate the play, I would say it would be, and again, my plays were 5, 10, and 15 dimes. I would have a 10-dime play on the Celtics in game number 1. I would have a 5-dime play on the series price on the Celtics, giving myself and affording myself the possibility of bailing out later. And I would have a 5-dime play on the over. So there you go. And yet I have a 15-dime play in baseball because that is ultimately the best bet today on the card. I wish you well, guys, and we'll talk about that little series out west, Golden State and Houston. That'll be Monday's video. Good luck, everybody.